So there was some really good reporting that came out in the Washington Post, and it highlights what happened with some of the fallout from the government response to COVID. So take a look at this. This is tweeted by Heather Long. New, over half of the $522 billion in PPP small business loans went to 600 larger companies and chains. Trump administration claimed most loans went to small firms, but most of the money went to larger businesses, new data shows. And then you can see the chart there. Paycheck Protection Program, loan value totals by percentile. And so you see it says the top 1% of loans account for more than a quarter of all loan value. The top 1% of loans account for more than a quarter of all loan value. Then you see underneath it, the top 5% of loans account for more than half of all loan value. The top 5% of loans account for more than half of all loan value. So, in layman's terms, let me describe what this means. The original intent of the PPP small business loans, the original intent of it is in the title. We need to help small businesses because they're the ones who are being really impacted in a devastating way by COVID and the economic fallout. In practice, in reality, what happened was, of course, the lobbyists won out. So the lobbyists for bigger business successfully convinced politicians to stretch the definition of what a small business is, and they made it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then we ended up in a place where, I'll read it again here, over half, more than 50% of the $522 billion in PPP small business loans went to 600 larger companies and chains. So really, the small business program mostly helped big business. And honestly, this should come as no surprise to you because your government is corrupt. But beyond that, we've been seeing other economic numbers come out over time. And it was either 60%, I'm not sure if it was 60% of small businesses or 60% of restaurants specifically, that they're now going to be permanently closed. So what you see is a real move towards concentration of wealth and power at the top and among few corporations. You're going to see, basically, there will be more monopoly power as a result of COVID. Because what's going to happen? When you have the small businesses shut down, either you just destroy communities and the communities are permanently destroyed, or people with the capital swoop in and buy up the area, buy up the businesses, and they continue to make money while regular people suffer. And you can imagine a situation where somebody who was a small business owner for decades, they get put out of business, and then it's bought by a big chain, and then they have to go work for that big chain. Sort of like the Walmartification of middle America, where small mom and pop shops were replaced with Walmarts. And people who were making more money previously and had more independence and freedom and something to be proud of, then, they ended up working for minimum wage and clocking in and out and having terrible bosses. I mean, this is the long-term effects of this stuff, man. It's terrifying. It's terrifying. It's basically taking every negative trend in American society and in political and economic life and exacerbating it. That's what we're seeing with COVID. And now we're just getting more of the specifics rolling in over time. But listen, there were very few of us who were speaking up at the time, like when the CARES Act was being passed, and we were saying, you can't do this, you can't do this. There were very few of us, but we're already proven correct. Because it was a shock doctrine scenario. It was Naomi Klein's idea of the shock doctrine. You take a tragedy and you exploit it for your pre-existing agenda. And the pre-existing agenda is always in this country more corporate control, more control among the top 1% and the elites. And that's what happened. And more evidence is rolling in over time, and it will continue to roll in because this is the dynamic at play. I mean, when you have a multi-trillion-dollar bailout, and people only got one-time $1,200 stimulus check. It's like, where's all the money going? Answer: to the top corporations and quantitative easing for the market. The banks were getting $1 trillion a day. A day. The Fed was going nuts. So there's always a complete socialization of the stock market, and the American people, it's rugged individualism for you. You got the crumbs of a one-time $1,200 check. Meanwhile, again, look at other countries, right? The way they responded is, we'll do the broad economic shutdowns, and then we do wage replacement schemes. We basically nationalize wages for a temporary period of time. And it varied from like 70% to 100% of your wages. We didn't do that. We shut down like 50% of the economy and then told people, you're on your own. Here's a one-time $1,200 payment. I hope that lasts you like a year. Really, really, really devastating. My heart goes out to everybody affected by this. People affected by the health aspect of this, because we're nearing 300,000 Americans dead. People who've had it, people who have long-term symptoms as a result of it, long-term consequences, people who've died from it. My heart goes out to them, and my heart goes out to everybody whose life was uprooted by, just how bad this was, just how bad this is. The devastating impacts on the economy are now crystal clear.